Study session 12, business 106, homework assignment 6 and 7 review. First question. Copy, paste. Calculating beta. Following are several months' rates of return for Tumble Home Canoe Company. Prepare a plot like figure 12.1. Like figure 12.1. What is Tumble Home's beta? In this figure, we are given the following table. And the table consists of month, market return percent, and Tumble Home return percent. Tumble Home return percent. -2 and -4. Now that we have this table, so either you wrote it down or you take a picture of it or something, what it asks you to do is prepare a figure, a plot that matches up with it, and this will enable you to calculate the beta. In this case, the beta is the coefficient of the slope. In a sense, if we take a look at this graph here, it may not be the straightest line, but you'll get the point. X, Y. The numbers we were given go from 0.5, 1, 1.5, and 2. So, and then from here, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me just label them really quickly so that you guys know. 0.5, 1, 1.5, and 2. And then up here is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of course the same goes for down here. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. And then finally we have -0.5, -1, -1.5, and -2. 2, -1, -0.5. Now that we have this, we can start graphing. First, we know that the points are 1, 0 and -1, 0. The reason we know that these are the points is because they are given on the table. Month 1 is 0, 1, month 2 is 0, 0. In a sense, treat these as y coordinates and treat these as x coordinates. That will make things easier to go along with. I'm going to assume you know how to plot x and y coordinates, so I'm going to plot them out here, and then we shall compare afterwards. 2, 1, and then from here it'll be 2, 2, followed by 2, 4. Continuing from here, we have -1. I'm going to expand the image I have of it so that it's easier for me to look at it. Okay. From here, it'll be -1 and then 0.5. -1, 0.5. And then it'll be -2.5 and -1. So -1, -2.5, -1. And I'm going to mark these ones down because there is no perfect alignment here. So this will be, oops. This will be -1, -0.5 for this dot over here. And for this dot over here, it's going to be -1, negative 2.5. I'm writing these two down because it doesn't line up with the graph drawn. Other than that, it is much simpler to follow. This is negative 2, this is negative 2. And then finally, this is negative 2, and this is negative 4. Now that we have this lined up, we can either take the in-between sections. So the distance between 1 and negative 1 is 2. And then because the center of this section, it'll be 1 plus negative 1, it'll equal to 0. And for this one, we are going to be using what are we going to use? Let's use bright green. So that's the center point between these 2 points. Between these 2 points, the center would be here. Between these 2 points, the center would be around here. Between these 2 points, it's here. Between these 2 points, it's here. Now that we know where the in-between sections are, okay, 2 minus 1 is 1. Half of that is here, which was about 1.5. And you'll notice that the beta here is always going to be 1.5. Once you line it up, that is, because it gives you a straight line. Beta is equal to 1.5. This is really weird to explain mathematically, but doing it by hand and drawing it out, it just goes to show that if you take the distance between the 2 points, you'll always get 1.5 as your slope between the halfway point from here to here and the halfway point from here to here. And the halfway point are the distance between the 2 red dots divided by 2. That is how you do chapter 12, question 6. I'll admit that's a very weird one to explain, but once you do it, once you see how it works out, it makes more sense. On to question 2. Whoa. Okay. chapter 12, question 10. Why does it always do that? Kappa and valuation. You are considering acquiring a firm that you believe, I don't know why I wrote believe with a V, that you believe can generate cash flows of $10,000 per year. However, you recognize that cash flows are uncertain. And then we have, this is a 2-part, so this has question A. We'll solve question A first, and then I'll show you what question B is. Part A of this question includes, suppose you believe that the beta of the firm is 0.4. How much is the firm worth if the risk-free rate is 4% and the expected rate of return on the market portfolio is 11%? To do this question, we are asked with using the following formula. Okay. R is equal to, this is the expected rate of return. R is equal to RF plus the beta multiplied by RM minus RF. This formula is given in the exam 3 formula sheet. The way you would see this is the risk-free rate plus the stock's beta times the market rate premium. This is Kappa. So this right here is the market risk premium. This is the beta, and this is the risk-free rate, and this is your return. Now that the formula has been explained, it'll now be easier to write out. We know that RF is equal to 0.04 as stated in the question, because the because the risk-free rate is 4%, plus the beta, which the beta of the firm, we believe it is 0.4, so we're just going to write 0.4 based on what the question tells us, multiplied by the RM minus RF, which, given in the question, we believe has cash flow. Give me a quick second. Whoa, it's as if nothing wants to work with me. But that's okay. The market portfolio is 11%. So 0.11 minus, and since RF here is equal to RF here, it's also 0.04. What you'll do is plug this into a calculator, and it should give you 0.068, which in turn is 6.8% discount rate, which is equal to R. Value of firm is equal to cash flow in perpetuity divided by the discount rate, or R. So 10,000 divided by 0.068. And if you plug this into a calculator, the actual value of the firm is equal to $147,058.82. That's the value of the firm. Hold on. And we're back. Sorry for spacing out there. It seems Jasper's assignment did more to me than I thought. That's okay. Now that we've calculated the amount that the firm is worth, assuming that the beta is 0.4, we now have to solve for part B. By how much will we overvalue the firm if its beta is actually 0.6? To do that, we have to do the exact same equation again. So R is equal to RF plus beta times RM minus RF. We know that it's the same values as last time, so 0.04 plus beta, but in this case it's 0.6. But it's 0.6 multiplied by 0.11 minus 0.04. If we plug this into a calculator, we'll get 8.2%, or 0.082. With that out of the way, we now need to calculate the value of the firm, and it's the same methodology. It's just 10,000 divided by 0.082. Okay, and by plugging that into the calculator, you should get 121,951 and 22.22. Now to calculate for the overvaluation, we just need to subtract these two numbers. So if we assume this is value of firm 1 and that this is value of firm 2, VOF1 minus VOF2, plug that into a calculator. This is equal to VOF2. Plug this into a calculator and we should get $25,170.60. That is by how much we overvalue the firm if the beta is actually 0.6. Excellent. We'll be using a lovely shade of red. Let me plug it in for us. Chapter 12, question 17. Kappa and expected return. The following table shows betas for several companies. All right. Calculate each stock's expected rate of return using the Kappa. Understood? Assume the risk-free rate of interest is 4%. Use 7% risk premium for the market portfolio. Simple enough. Let's use the table provided to us by the question. It'll be the companies and betas for us. The companies are Caterpillar, Cisco, Harley-Davidson, and Hershey. As for their betas, they are 1.63, 1.24, 0.82, and 0.24. Once more, I would like to reiterate that the risk-free rate is 4% and the premium is 7%. Now that we know that, we will use the same formula again. R is equal to risk-free rate plus the beta multiplied by the return on market portfolio minus the risk-free rate of return. However, since we know the premium is just that, we'll just use the same formula, just assume that this is one value. So in a sense, assume that 0.07 is equal to RM minus RF. This is just something you need to accept. Now that we have that, we can do this for all of them. For the company of Caterpillar, it's going to be 0.4 plus 1.63 multiplied by 0.07, and this should give us 0.1541, which is equal to 15.41%. Up next, we're going to use the one for Cisco, which in this case is 1.24. So instead of having to rewrite this again, we'll just copy it down the same and just move this number and change it to 1.24. So in a sense, it's going to be 0.4 plus 1.24 multiplied by 0.07. And that number will give us 0.1268, otherwise known as 12.68%. Up next, to determine what it is for Harley-Davidson, it's going to be the same steps again. 0.82 is the beta here. And if we plug it into this question, so we just plug in the beta for all of them. Let's just say that this is the nebulous term called beta. So this one and this one and this one are all beta. We plug it in to the formula, and we will get 0.0974, otherwise known as 9.74%, and that's for Harley-Davidson. And then finally, for Hershey's, yes, Hershey, the beta is 0.24. Therefore, we plug it in again, and we should get 0.0568, which in turn is equal to 5.68% is the rate of return under Kappa. And those are the 4 rate of returns for this question. Now that we've done this, I'm going to do the same thing for the homework number 7, and it'll still be in the same video. Just give me a quick second to make sure that I have everything prepared. I'll be right back. Welcome back. That's right. Unlike last time, I'm doing all the homework assignments in one go. So let's go to chapter 13.2. I will point this out for you. The practice exams, so chapters 12, 13, and 16 will be done in one video. That video will likely come out sometime later today. I really hope that you guys are understanding. 13-2. Whack! / here is some information about Stokin Church Incorporated. Beta 1.2. Treasury bill rate 4%. Market risk premium 7.5%. Yield to maturity on long-term debt 6%. Book value of equity $440 million. Market value of equity $880 million. Long-term debt outstanding $880 million. Corporate tax rate is equal to 35%. We need to find the company's whack. All right. That should be relatively easy enough. Say hi to Maya over here, but we're fine. We know that the expected return on stock is equal to the risk-free rate plus stock beta multiplied by expected market risk premium. Therefore, if we take the 0.04, which we have from the treasury bill rate, and add it to beta, which in this case is given to us as 1.2, and we multiply by the market risk premium, which in this case is 0.075, and we plug this into our calculator. And yes, this was just the big R that I used in the previous question. If you guys wanted to see it a bit clearer, I just used that one because that's how I have it written down for some reason. This will give us 0.13, which equals to 13%. That's our expected return on stock. Now we need the total value, which is equal to EV, and not the Pokemon, plus DV. This is in Gen 1, so don't worry about calculating that. I'm kidding. And to get this, we need to know that it's true because we are given these values. E divided by V and D divided by V are given to us in both capital amounts and capital weights. So in a sense, it is going to be equal to 880 million plus 880 million. And this is not a variable, this is just to signify that it is million, which in turn is equal to 1.76 billion dollars. Okay, and that is our total value. To get WACC, or WACC, I don't know why it's so fun to say WACC. The professor curses. He got me to do it. It'll be DV multiplied by 1 minus total, 1 minus TC, multiplied by our debt. And then from here we add EV and multiply it by our equity. Okay, this looks ridiculous, but this is how we solve it. So in order to do this, oh, by the way, this is in capital amounts. I forgot to do this. If we want for capital weights, it's going to be 0.5 plus 0.5, which is equal to 1. And that's in capital weights. So capital weights, and this is capital amounts. Sorry about that. You get those numbers from the from the fact that they are weighed at 0.5. Okay, so back to the section here. Now that we have this, we plug it all in. So it's equal to 0.5, which is the weight of dV, multiplied by 1 minus 0.35. The 0.35 comes from the corporate tax rate, so this is the tax. Then we multiply by 0.06, which is the yield to maturity on long-term debt. And then we add this. The second half of this, which in turn will be 0.5, which is just these numbers that we calculated down here, multiplied by 0.13, which we got when we calculated R. And this will give us 0.0845, which in turn approximates to 8.45%. Alrighty. That appears to be making sense. Let's do this. That is your WACC, your weighted average cost of capital. Average cost of capital. Simple enough. A bit long. Actually, very long process. But as a whole, it's not too bad. As a matter of fact, I think that on the exam, the hard part is not going to be the math. In fact, not even close. The hardest part is going to be just understanding the bloody questions, really. What else can I say? It's just going to be understanding the questions, because the math itself is not hard. It's just setting everything up. That is. Therefore, I really hope you guys brush up on your pattern recognition, because you're going to need it a lot. Regardless, let's look at the next question. Give me a quick second to scroll down. Perfect. Chapter 13, question 6 is another whack problem. Reactive power generation has the following capital structure. Its corporate tax rate is 35%. What is the whack? Regardless, I still need to give you the table. Security, market value, and required rate of return. So debt security has $2 million in market value, and the required rate of return is 6%. Preferred stock has $10 million in value, and the required rate of return is 8%. And common stock has $50 million in value, and the required rate of return is 12%. That should be fine enough. In addition, we have some extra. No, we don't. This is all the question gives you. Let's solve for it. So first we need to calculate for debt, which nobody really has, and yet millions of people still go into it throughout the course of their life. It's called bad decision making. As a joke. That's a joke. Anyways, we know that the value of debt, the market value, is 20 million. I remember I was doing this homework this time. I was watching a Gordon Ramsay video. And then the weight value is equal to the value divided by the sum of market value, which in turn is 20 divided by 80, because the sum of market value is 80. And these are all in millions, by the way. I'm just not putting the dash mil because that would take forever. This in turn gives you 0.25, which in turn is 25%, and that is your weight. From here, we need to get the rate. The rate will also be calculated by doing this. It's the required rate of return. Required rate of return. So triple R. That's right, triple R. Multiplied by 1 plus the corporate tax rate. Okay, CTR. And in this case, we know that triple R is going to be 0.06 because that's the required rate of return on the table. Just so you guys can see, let me put it out in the notepad. 0.06 is the required rate of return for the debt section. Multiplied by 1 plus the corporate tax rate, and the corporate tax rate is 35% or 0.35. And when you put this into your calculator, you should get 0.081 or 8.1%. And that is your debt's whack. No, that's not it. That's the rate. That's the rate. To actually get the whack, we need to go a bit further beyond. This is just the rate. My apologies, I misspoke. For a split second, I was excited, and then I realized, no, we have more steps. Also, one of the hardest sections is going to be knowing when to stop and when to keep going. Because sometimes you just want to keep going even though you already found it, or sometimes you haven't found it, but you believe you have. Regardless, now that we have the value, the weight, and the rate, we can calculate for weight rate, which is just weight times rate. Funny enough. So in this case, 0.25 multiplied by 0.081 will give us 0.020525 or 2.025%. That is our weight rate. Now that we have the weight rate for debt, so which is weight rate of debt, I'm just not going to erase this section and instead just keep it here. I'm going to box it so that we know not to erase it. Whoa. Yeah, because that's how you spell debt, guys. And let's mark it in a bright red so that we don't confuse it. Okay. Now let's erase this section because we already got the numbers here. The next one after debt, we have to do the preferred stock. The preferred stock is also going to be a rather long one, but not too much longer, as we don't actually have to calculate the rates as they're already given to us in the question. The only reason we have to do it for debt is because that is the value of the rate of debt, well, the weight rate of debt. Regardless, now that we have this, we have to do it for preferred stock. So preferred stock is going to be value is equal to 10 million. The weight is equal to the required rate of return, the value divided by the sum of market value. So weight is equal to value times sum of market value. And this will give us 10 divided by 80, or 1 over 8, which is 12.5%. We know that the rate is 8%. It's given to us in the problem. There's no need to do a fancy calculation for it. And that the weight rate is just the weight times the rate, which is 0.625. My apologies. It is not that. That's something else. Let me rewrite it. So it's going to be 0.125 multiplied by 0.08, which actually gives us 0.01. Is that correct? No, let me put that in a calculator. 0.125 times 0.08. Yeah, it gives us 0.01. Okay, cool. And in turn, this is 1%. Okay. That makes significantly more sense. Now that we have the weight rate for this one, we need to save it. So this is the weight rate of, what was this again? Oh, preferred stock. And we will encompass this one in a lovely shade of green. Okay. If it seems as though I'm hesitating to erase, that's not actually the case, is that I edited it out of the video because I don't want anyone with epilepsy to suffer. But the screen flickers every so often, and because of that, I have to be very careful, as if I move the mouse too rapidly, I could accidentally erase some of the answers that are already on the board. And I don't want to do that. Now we need to get the common stock one, the one for common stock. And for common stock, we're going to use nice bright yellow. No, you can't see that well enough. Can you see pink? Close enough. So for common stock, oh, you can totally see this. It's going to be value is equal to 50. The weight is equal to 50 divided by 80, which in turn is just 12.5 times 5, or 62.5%. And the rate, as given the problem, is equal to 12%. Why we did a formula for the rate of debt but not the other ones is beyond me. That's just how you're supposed to do it, to my knowledge, unless you guys can tell me otherwise. So now we have the weight and rate here. We now need to get the weight rate, which is just W times R, so 62.5 multiplied by 0.12, by 12, we should get 0.075, which approximates to 7.5%, and this is weight rate of common stock. So now to get whack, finally, which, I don't know, it just takes really long. To finally get the weighted average cost of capital, or whack, we just have to take the sum of weight rates. So if we add all of these percentages together, we should get 10.525%. And that is how you get the whack for Chapter 13, Question 6. I'm not going to lie, that was a very confusing question. So if you are not sure about something, post it in the comments, and I will do my best to get back to you sometime in the next few hours, because I got to do the one for the practice test as well. And that's also going to take quite a bit of time. But you know what? It's going to be time well spent. Excellent. For this one, we'll use pink still. See, how does purple look like? Oh, purple looks much better. Why am I not using purple? Okay, so Chapter 13, Question 4. Let's open the document. Is like this. This is another multi-part question. It's separated into parts A, B, and C. We are going to begin with part A, and we shall tack on B and C after. The common stock of Build Wilt Conversation and Construction Incorporated, BCCI, has a beta of 0.9. The Treasury bill rate is 4%. And the market risk premium is estimated at 8%. Excellent. BCCI's capital structure is 30% debt, paying a 5% interest rate and 70% equity. Buildwell pays tax at 40%. First, we need to get the cost of equity capital. So to do this, we need to find out what we know. And what we know is the following. Control copy, control paste. You know that beta is 0.9, the Treasury bill is 0.04, which is equivalent to RF. That the market risk premium is 0.08, which is equivalent to RM minus RF. And in the capital structure, it's 0.3 debt, 0.05 interest rate, and 0.7 equity, 0.4 tax rate. Excellent. Now that we know that, we need to figure out what formula we're using. And if you've been following along, you'll know that the formula we're using is RF plus beta multiplied by RM minus RF. And this is the expected rate of return. Now that we have this here, let's plug everything in. The Treasury bill is 0.04 plus the beta, and the beta here is 0.9 multiplied by, and thankfully we're given a market risk premium, which is RM minus RF, which is 0.08. So if you really want to find out RM, you just add this to it. So RM was 0.12. If you really want to solve for it, but in reality you don't. And then we plug this into our calculator, and this should give us 0.112, which becomes 11.2%. All right, that makes sense. Now that we have that, we need to get part B, because this may be separated into 3 different sections, but they're not hard sections. They're just time consuming. So part B says this. What is the whack? And to do this, we're going to go through quite a few equations, honestly. We're going to be doing the cost weight thing again, or value weight thing again. You'll see. So for B, let us continue. It's going to be the following. The post-cost of debt, for once I actually spelled debt correctly, is equal to the interest rate multiplied by 1 minus the tax rate. Therefore, it's going to be 0.05. Come on, please work with me. Multiplied by 1 minus, and I said earlier in the question that it pays tax at 40%, so 0.4. Alrighty. And this should give you 0.03 or 3%. I will give you a second to copy it down. Like I said, I recommend watching these videos at ×2 speeds so that me erasing things doesn't take an eternity from your end. You know, these are actually really fun questions. I'm going to say it. 108 was harder than 106. Whether or not you agree with me is up to you. Okay, back to the question at hand here. We know that it's 3% for the post-cost of debt. Now we need to get the cost of equity, which is KE. Okay. KE, this is cost of equity, is equal to the cost times weight, which in turn is 0.7 multiplied by 1.2. The 1.2 is given to us here, and the 0.7 comes from the interest, not from the interest rate, from the cost. Okay, this the 70% equity, 0.7. Yeah, that's where this comes. This comes from the equity in the graph. So back in the question, just so you guys can see it, it says that we know that the capital structure among their 0.7 is the equity. And why the post-cost of debt was 0.5, it's because back here it says that the interest rate is 0.5 and that the debt is 0.3. My bad, it's just that it's 0.05. You know, the 0.3 thing is something else. Alrighty. Now that we have KE, we need to find KD. And I'm not talking about an FPS. I'm talking about the cost of debt, which many people fear to this day, and some people never get out of it. It's the cause of many divorces, but that's the joke. It's cost times weight again, which in this case will be 0.7. The 0.7 once again comes from where it says equity here. Oh, my bad. That's from the previous one. This is why we check the question every so often, just to make sure that we don't make mistakes. So it'll be, from the debt, it says 0.3. As you can see, it says 0.3 debt. Therefore, it is going to be 0.3 multiplied by the weight. And the weight is already given to us in the question. The capital structure, BCCI's capital structure is 30% debt, or 0.3. Which in turn will give us 0.09 or 9%. Yes, that is correct, 9%. Okay. Now that we have that, we have to get the WACC. And as we know, the WACC here is the sum of the KE, KD, CW. So this equals sum of KE and KD's CW, which in turn is equal to 7.84 plus 9%. These are in percentages, by the way. Plus 9%, which is 16.84%. That is the weighted average cost of capital of BCCI. And now we need to get part C. That's right. Part C is part of this question as well. Let me pull it up. Control copy. Control paste. If BCCI is presented with a normal project with an internal rate of return of 12%, should it accept the project? I'm just going to tell you right now that this is a rule. WACC greater than IRR. Do not accept. WACC less than IRR. Accept. There you go. What that means is that we do not accept this project, by the way. Oh, should it accept the project? It is, we do not accept. I really misspelled accept. Damn. I'm gonna give credit to Jocelyn, man. No one tires you out like his assignments. Okay? The KGB should hire him. That's messed up. 13.6 in the last question of the homework section. WACC's no debt. We need to get the no debt incorporated is a firm with all equity financing. Oops, I forgot to post it. Its equity beta is 0.8. the treasury bill rate, or RF, is 4%, and the market risk premium, so RM minus RF, is expected to be 40%. First, we get no debts, assets beta. Luckily, in this case, because it is financed via all equity, as stated in the question, no debt incorporated is a firm with an all equity financing, we know that the assets beta is equal to the equity beta, which is equal to 0.8. There you go. I wanted to be cool about it, but realistically, it was not going to let me. And finally, what is no debts? Whack! Weighted average cost of capital. Damn it, Professor. You made the term whack so fun to pronounce. You know, I have never used the term whack in a sentence prior to this class. As we know, the formula to get whack is this. The rate of return. Normally that would be the case. And then finally, we know that when we have a market risk premium, that's equal to RM minus RF. I know I've been repeating myself a lot, but you got to remember this. Most likely this is going to be in the exam, because that's what he's questioning us on. Very well. Let's use a different color. Purple just wasn't doing it. I thought that using purple was going to be good, but realistically, outside of the sections where it's on the picture, it's just a rather dark color that's a bit difficult to see, which is why I got a bit louder in my statements of the numbers and what section of the question we were on at the time. I hope you understand what I was saying. All right, so we know that let's get a different color. Let's use a very nice lime green. Whack is equal to RF. Okay, let me fix that. That looks terrible. Remember, I recommend watching these at ×2 speeds so that everything goes nice and smoothly. RF plus beta. Okay, that is not how you write that. Let me write it correctly. Okay, that's just how you write something else. Times RM minus RF. And since this is already given to us, we know that this is equal to the market risk premium. Therefore, it's going to be treasury bill rate is 0.04 plus the beta, which in this case is already been given to us, is 0.8 multiplied by the market risk rate premium, which is expected to be 40%, so 0.4. And if you plug this into your calculator, you should get 0.36, which equals to 36%. And that is your whack, your weighted average cost of capital. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Once more, the practice section ones will come out sometime tomorrow. Well, actually today. But for me, it's going to be tomorrow, so I'm going to go to sleep and then wake up and do it right away. Have a nice evening.